Think your rights end where the Constitution stops listing them? You better think again. The Ninth Amendment is like the reminder that God's truth doesn't need human permission, and the founders actually agreed. In this episode, we'll uncover why this often ignored amendment could be one of the most powerful tools for defending liberty, parental rights, and even life itself. Let's talk about the rights that you didn't know you had and why they matter even more than ever. Hey y'all, and welcome back to Voices of Liberty. I'm Isabel, and I am just so excited you are here today. Guess what, y'all? We are literally so close to being done with the Bill of Rights. We only have one more amendment left after this one, and that is the 10th Amendment. I am so happy y'all have been following along and learning all this stuff because it has taught me a lot, and I hope and pray that it has taught y'all a lot as well. Time has flown by, and again, y'all, I'm just super pumped about these next few months. Last week I went to the beach, and I honestly had a blast. We got back on Monday, and I am really tired, though. But I did have a lot of fun, got lots of seashells, and just had great time with family, so it was really worth it. And I even got a little tan, which was my goal. So it's not a huge tan, but it's a little one, so I'm super excited about that. I'm also moving this weekend, so that is also a lot. I told y'all I've been busy. But I'm super excited to see where the Lord takes me next. I will have lots of podcasting space and lots of room to just record. And again, I'll just have my own space. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how I'm able to steward that. I'm super excited. As with every episode of this podcast, I want to start it with scripture. So here is this week's weekly verse and weekly challenge. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. Psalm 96, 1-3. And the weekly challenge is short this week, but it's pretty simple. I just want y'all to start your morning in prayer, specifically asking for boldness and discernment in today's culture. I know it can be really hard to be bold in your faith, and it can be really hard to be bold in your values as well. This can be in regard to Christianity, or it can also be in regards to just your conservative political beliefs. It can be really hard to share that with others. So definitely pray for that boldness and pray for opportunities to share the gospel with people and pray for opportunities to share your values with people. This could also mean maybe just taking a leap of faith and posting a more controversial post on Facebook or Instagram. And when people react to it, respond kindly and say, hey, I disagree and here's why, or I agree and here's why, and just kind of open up conversation. Just start your morning with prayer, y'all. It's going to be super beneficial for you guys, and it's just going to strengthen your relationship with the Lord. I really want to see this podcast grow, and I am really excited to be covering other topics. Y'all just pray for me, please, and pray for guidance. If you are not a part of the CCW community where this all actually began, please go and join the Facebook group. I can link the Christian Conservative Wives group and the Christian Conservative Women's group in the show notes so that y'all can go and join. We would love to have y'all. We cover topics on theology, politics, family, parenting. We also cover scrunchy and crunchy lifestyle topics and just so much more. You don't want to miss out on that. We have Bible studies, a prayer team, challenges, and we just paired some ladies who were interested in having a pen pal with a pen pal. So that's been a blast, and I'm just super excited to see where the Lord takes CCW. So definitely go and check out our Facebook groups if you haven't already and join them. If you are a Christian conservative wife or woman, we would really appreciate having you in our space. And again, I am just super pumped about the next few weeks. I cannot wait. I also want to say that if you have any ideas and you want to see me cover a specific topic in this podcast, please comment it below. I would love to see y'all's suggestions. I have some ideas myself of what I want to talk about, but please go ahead and leave me your ideas and comments. I would love to take them into consideration and do an episode on them. As always, my goal for this podcast is just to help you navigate life with liberty, truth, and grace. As women, it is essential that we are knowledgeable about what is going on around us. It's important to study the stuff so we know it. I know it can be kind of redundant hearing these amendments over and over and over again, but if you don't continue to hear them and just get them in your mind, you'll forget them. Before we dig in, I always want to go over the previous amendments we've already gone through. And again, you may be just rolling your eyes and sighing and skipping this part. You better not. But it's really important that we understand these and we hear them and we know them. Really, I would want y'all to know them by heart because it is really important. So with all that said, here is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Third Amendment. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house, without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by the law. The Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases where arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. The Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed by the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, and to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. The Seventh Amendment. In suits of common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of the trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. The Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. All right, y'all, so we have gone through Amendments 1 through 8, and now we are about to cover the Ninth Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Most of us start the day with a hot cup of coffee. But imagine if that simple habit could do more than just wake you up. What if your morning coffee could help save lives? Most people don't even think twice about where their dollars go. But what if your daily brew could support life from the very first heartbeat? That's exactly what 7 Weeks Coffee is doing. 7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement one cup of coffee at a time. Why are they even called 7 Weeks Coffee? Because at 7 weeks, y'all, the baby is the size of a little coffee bean, and it is the same time a heartbeat is clearly detected in an ultrasound. That is why they donate 10% of every sale to support pregnancy care centers across the country. They have raised over $900,000 for these centers and have saved thousands of lives. Y'all, they have raised $900,000 for pregnancy care centers that are pro-life. This is huge and is such an encouraging thing to hear. We should be supporting this company. Now, let me tell you about the coffee, because I am very picky about what I put into my body. It is mold-free, pesticide-free, shade-grown, and low acid, and it's organically farmed. So it truly checks all of the boxes. So go to 7weekscoffee.com and save 15% forever when you subscribe. Plus, exclusively for my Voices of Liberty listeners, use the code OFFICIALCCW for an extra 10% off your first order. Okay, y'all, that's a 25% total savings on your first order. If you subscribe today, go ahead and be sure to claim your free single-serve brew bags with your order. Remember, your order will directly help support a network of over 1,000 pro-life organizations across the U.S. Okay, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and reread the Ninth Amendment again, just because there was a lot in that short little sentence, I feel like. So it says, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This is a lot of information, and it probably doesn't really make much sense to you. I had to reread this over and over and over again a few times to kind of understand it. So when I cover these amendments, I always like to give a brief breakdown of the history and the background information of why it was even incorporated. It is important to know why the founders felt that it was essential to include each amendment. It just gives us some of the backstory along with everything else. It is really interesting to see how this podcast has come full circle. If you go back and listen to my very first episode, I literally broke down the history of why America even has a Bill of Rights. So today I'm going to kind of reiterate that because it has a lot to do with the Ninth Amendment. Imagine being in a room where all of the founding fathers were in an intense meeting and debate and discussing how they wanted America to be framed. There was a lot of tension in the room, and there was probably a lot of fear. Fear that the grand experiment of self-government would fail before the eyes of a watching world. Every time I think about this meeting, I think about what might have been racing through our founding fathers' minds at the time. America had just won a war, one that these men helped ignite. Now they had to figure out how to frame a nation. This meeting was called the Constitutional Convention, which met in 1787. Now remember, the Bill of Rights was not added into the Constitution until it had been ratified. At the Constitutional Convention, there was a man named George Mason, who I've talked about a lot on this podcast, who was basically the author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, and he petitioned for America to have a federal Bill of Rights. Unfortunately, his request was declined, but finally, they all decided and came to an agreement, and the Bill of Rights was added. Federalists, like Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, were two of the authors of the Federalist Papers, which was just a series of essays written to basically express concerns that they had with the Bill of Rights in answering questions of the people regarding the Constitution. So these men would just take turns writing different essays, and they would publish them and people would read them, but they were publishing them under anonymous names. These were very, very smart men, and they wanted to ensure that they covered all the areas. Anti-Federalist was a name given to the men who rallied and petitioned for a Bill of Rights for America. James Madison was actually against the Bill of Rights to begin with, but he was eventually won over and was one of the key authors of the Bill of Rights. The main concern the Federalists had with having a Bill of Rights was basically that if you had a list of rights laid out on paper, this was an incentive for the government to come and take away rights that were not listed. They knew that it would literally be physically impossible to list out every single right that Americans have. And they also knew those rights may change. They were worried that because certain rights may not be listed or included, the government would begin to oppress the people and take more and more rights away. And so this is why they were so adamant about it. I talked about all this in my first episode. I will link it in the show notes because I go into more detail about this. A quote from Hamilton that I remember reading in the first episode was very, very profound. At first, I could not understand why he did not encourage the Bill of Rights for America. I mean, after all, doesn't it seem like a good thing to have for your country? But after I read his concerns in Federalist Paper number 84, it made a lot of sense. His concerns were honestly 100% valid. So I'm going to reread this quote from the Federalist Paper number 84. I read it in the first episode, I believe, but I'm going to reiterate it again because I think it's important. He says, "I go further to affirm that the Bills of Rights in the sense and to the extent in which they are contended for are not only unnecessary in the proposed Constitution, but it would even be dangerous. They would contain various exceptions to powers not granted, and on this very account would afford a colorable pretext to claim more than were granted. For why declare that things shall not be done which there is no power to do? Why, for instance, should it be said that the liberty of the press shall not be restrained, when no power is given by which restrictions may be imposed?" So there is a lot more he says in that, and I will link that in the show notes. That comes from guides.loc.gov. Hamilton is basically saying that it could be very dangerous to have a Bill of Rights because there is no possible way that we could list out every single right Americans have. And this could, in a sense, cause the government to take away the rights that are not listed. They were genuinely worried about this, y'all. This was a huge concern, and it was a very valid concern. This is a profound quote by Hamilton, and I am so thankful that we have founding fathers who are willing to challenge the majority and stand up for what they believed in. Because of men like Hamilton, we have the Ninth Amendment today. You see, the founders made a compromise and decided to add the Ninth Amendment to make it clear that even though there are certain rights listed, like our Second Amendment rights, a right to free speech, a right to have a trial by jury, that does not mean that these are the only rights Americans have. Essentially, the government cannot claim that if a right is not written down, it does not exist. So to compromise and appease the Federalists like Alexander Hamilton, the founders made a decision to include the Ninth Amendment into the Bill of Rights. In a culture that cancels truth and waters down conviction, Conviction Company is flipping the script. Their hats are not just about style, they're about standing firm for what matters: faith, family, and freedom, and the values this country was built on. Bold designs, unapologetic messages. Because your hats and shirts should say what your heart already knows, conviction is never out of fashion. I just sported my Save the Babies hat at the beach this weekend, and I loved it. Everybody was looking at my hat. I absolutely loved it, and they're super comfortable, and it kept the sun off my head, and I was supporting my values in the process. Conviction Co. is a family-owned business started by a Midwest stay-at-home mom. Their goal is actually to provide their customers with high-quality and on-trend apparel and accessories that make it easier to boldly share truth and spark important conversations. If you want to boldly share truth and open conversations, go to convictionco.com and use the code OFFICIALCCW to get 10% off your order. Again, y'all, go to convictionco.com, use the code OFFICIALCCW to get 10% off your order. Okay, when I say that there are rights not mentioned, but that we have, here are some of the examples. I want to give these to ensure that we have a better understanding of the Ninth Amendment. So when it comes to parenting, it is you, not the government, that has the God-given authority to educate, discipline, and spiritually guide your kids. The Constitution may not spell out parental rights, but the Ninth Amendment says, just because it is not listed does not mean it does not exist. From picking your doctor to declining treatments or mandates, your health decisions are yours. That personal freedom, it's one of the rights we retain, protected by the Ninth Amendment. Many people homeschool, but the Constitution doesn't say anything about homeschooling. But the Ninth Amendment covers it. You don't need government permission to teach your children because your authority comes from God, not the state. Especially when we're talking about declining certain treatments medically or mandates, this makes me think of the COVID vaccine. I remember when they were pushing this shot on every single person, the vaccine. And I know a lot of people who refused, and they received heavy criticism for it. But, I mean, they were right to question it. I mean, after all, you don't even know what you're putting into your body, and this is basically an experimental drug. I think it's important that we question things, and we have every right to do that. This is why, again, y'all, the Ninth Amendment is so important. So I do want to talk about a court case. This court case is called Griswold versus Connecticut, and it is a little bit controversial, so just bear with me. But it deals with the Ninth Amendment. This court case deals with Planned Parenthood, and it happened in 1789. The state of Connecticut passed a law prohibiting the use of medical drugs, devices, or instruments to prevent pregnancies. So this would be like contraceptives and things like that. This was basically a law that was passed that prevented contraception. Lee Buxton, who was a gynecologist at Yale Medical School, and Estelle Griswold, the head of Planned Parenthood in Connecticut, opened a birthing center. However, because this was against the law, they were arrested. So I just want y'all to ask yourself, do you feel it was against their rights for the government to arrest them? After all, they were essentially challenging the government to see what would happen, knowing this would be brought before the Supreme Court. Well, they were right, and it did go to the Supreme Court, and this is how they ruled in this case. This comes from oyez.com, and the main question was asked, does the Constitution protect the right of marital privacy against state restrictions on a couple's ability to be counseled in the use of contraceptives? So here is their ruling. In a 7-2 decision authored by Justice Douglas, the court ruled that the Constitution did in fact protect the right of a marital privacy against state restrictions on contraception. While the court explained that the Constitution does not explicitly protect a general right to privacy, the various guarantees within the Bill of Rights create penumbras or zones that establish a right to privacy. Together, the First, Third, Fourth, and Ninth Amendments create the right to privacy in marital relations. The Connecticut statute conflicted with the exercise of this right and therefore was held null and void. So there is more to that decision, but that comes from oyez.com. And the Ninth Amendment protected their rights. Well, I do disagree with the mission of Planned Parenthood wholeheartedly. It does seem unconstitutional to tell married couples they cannot prevent pregnancy using contraceptives. Now, we do get into the question of there are some contraceptives that can be considered an abortifacient. again, you have to do research on that. The main point of this case is to understand that the Ninth Amendment protected married couples' right to privacy when it comes to their contraceptives and things like that. Tired of fake ingredients, overprocessed foods, and health advice that changes with the wind? Back to the Basics 101 is all about getting back to God's design for wellness with real whole ingredients straight from the farm. From their ultimate elderberry syrup kit to plant-based protein blends and handcrafted seasonings, this is the kind of nourishment you can actually feel good about giving your family. No fillers, no junk, just faith, wisdom, and wellness the way that it was meant to be. I love Ginger's elderberry syrup kit. It is the most perfect for allergy season. It helps build your immune system as well. So definitely go and check out her website because she has great products. Her elderberry and syrup kit is literally amazing. And again, it's allergy season. It's springtime. Flowers are blooming. Allergies are bad, y'all. And this elderberry and syrup kit helps your allergies and calms them down. Back to the Basics 101 is a small business owned by Johnny and Ginger Butts. They are a farming family who are also believers. Basics in their name, Back to the Basics 101, is an acronym for Brothers and Sisters in Christ Service. Ginger believes that when we're saved, discipled, and healthy, we can enjoy the abundant life that Jesus talks about in John 10:10. Their family has experienced healing from what Ginger calls modern diseases through God's creation. Back to the Basics 101 produces 4 product lines to help consumers get nutrition from the source. Each of these product lines get you as close to the point of nutrition as possible. Their other 3 product lines include a plant protein blend, elderberries and more ultimate syrup kit, and seasonings. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram so that you can see all of their small batch products and help make a healthier you. Go to backtothebasics101.com and use the code CCW10 for 10% off your order. Okay, guys, don't forget, if you share this episode with just one friend, please send me proof at voicesoflibertycontact@gmail.com. I would love to give you an exclusive shout out on the podcast, the website, and send you an exclusive CCW sticker in the mail while supplies last. I absolutely love it when y'all share my show with other people, and word of mouth is the best way to grow a podcast, guys. If you feel led to share or leave a review, please do so. It just helps me grow into the algorithm. It also helps me get word out and connect with more people. It means the world to me when y'all share and leave reviews, so please continue to do that if you feel led to. Alright, y'all, we have covered a lot from the heart behind the Ninth Amendment to Hamilton's warnings in Federalist Paper number 84 and how the courts wrestled with these ideas in Griswold versus Connecticut. And maybe most importantly, looked at what this means for you and me today, as women, as believers, and as citizens holding on to rights that were never meant to be handed over. Just because a right isn't written down, it does not mean that it is not real. The Ninth Amendment reminds us our freedoms come from God, not government, and no piece of paper can contain all that He has given us. Obviously, there are limitations to our rights in America. We can't go and murder someone because we feel like it. There is obviously limitations to that, rightfully so. We do have rights that are not listed in the Bill of Rights, and I think it's important to note that the Ninth Amendment protects those. Please, y'all, don't forget to check out the show notes for this week's resources, and if you're not a part of our Facebook group, please join it. I know I said that earlier, but it is really important that you join our community. That is where the deeper conversations continue and where you'll find support to keep living your values with clarity and courage. I want y'all to continue to stand firm, speak truth, and stay rooted in grace. Your rights matter, y'all. Your voice matters. So let's continue to navigate life with liberty, truth, and grace. We are almost done with the Bill of Rights, guys. Continue to hang on. And I will be back next week with the 10th Amendment. And then we will be covering all kinds of things. So please, again, let me know what y'all want to hear from me, specifically in the comments. And I will see if I can get something together and do an episode on it if I feel led to. And I'm super excited for this new journey. This is a series that we will have completed. And again, this is such a blessing. I have been blessed so much by this podcast, guys, and I hope that y'all have too. Please, please, please share it with a friend if you want to. And again, thank y'all so much for your support, and thank you for listening.